What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 13 of Bound to Improve. My name is Landon Eller.
And I'm Chris Pound. Do you want to talk about the book we decided to read this week?
Yeah, so we read Make Your Bed by Admiral William H. McRaven. Overall, very short, compact book, but it was filled with a bunch of insights that we're excited to share here.
Yeah, before we kind of get into that, let's talk about the implementation from The Courage to Be Disliked. Me and Landon both had similar implementations, actually the exact same, which was to try and look for more horizontal relationships rather than vertical. I guess what were your takeaways from that experience?
So I have tried to observe him at work, but I think I need a little bit more time, I think, to feel out the processes. But we've been like joking in a sense with each other, trying to catch those concepts of the vertical and horizontal relationship. So I think that it's gonna help understand what's vertical, what's horizontal, and be able to transition to more horizontal.
Exactly. Yeah. Like he said, we kind of joke around with, oh, you're talking to me in like a vertical aspect, but as the joke continues, it's like, okay, well, it's a joke, so actually it's a horizontal relationship. But the things that we kind of pick apart from each other, we're like, okay, well, if someone is talking to me in that sort of way, that's a vertical relationship in itself. And it's kind of neat to see how everything kind of plays into each other and the dynamic of relationships, I think.
Yeah, awesome. So moving into the summary of the book, this book was broken up into 10 chapters. Again, it was really short, so we're just going to give a brief overview of the chapter. So the first one was to start your day with a task completed. And he starts off each chapter by saying, if you want to change the world, and then he does a little phrase. And this one is start off by making your bed. Life is hard. And sometimes there's little you can do to affect the outcome of your day. So control your controllables. But the simplest act of just making your bed can give you the lift you need to start your day and provide the satisfaction to end it right. So once you are able to make your bed, then it's going to give you that courage, that motivation to go do that next task. And by the time you look back on your day, you're going to be like, oh, wow, I just accomplished all these things that it started off by that one little task. But and on the flip side of things, you had a rough day at work, at school, etc. You come home having to a made bed, and it will give you that satisfaction or that encouragement that tomorrow will be a better day. Then you wake up and you start off with that one task and you get right back after it. So main takeaways here is the little things matter. If you can't do the little things right, how are you going to do the big things? So it's just something you have to really work on day-to-day basis.
Moving on into chapter 2 here, you can't do it alone. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. And in this chapter, there was actually a story that I'll let Landon kind of talk about here.
Yeah, so in SEALs, you're kind of assigned to a team in a sense. So you had to paddle through the rough waters, storms, whatever, and training is tough. It's physically and mentally challenging. So on the days that you can't give 100%, you have the person beside you and the person behind you giving 100% or even 110% to help you carry that weight when you're not at your best. But then when you're not at your best, the person next to you, then you pick up that slack. So that's really you can't go it alone.
It's all about teamwork. And in life, you have numerous setbacks. And having someone who comes forward to help you have faith in your abilities and actually see the potential in yourself, that kind of, it exponentially kind of helps you grow up in a sense, right? It takes a team of good people to get you to your destination in life. And so the whole idea is to make as many friends as possible. However, never forget that your success depends on others also. But it's important to have a good foundation of friends who you can always go to and talk to about, regardless of the situation. Always have your back. And those are the people who you can always rely on. When you're not at your 100%, you can kind of rely on them to help you pick up where you may be lacking in senses.
Yeah. Then on to chapter 3 here. Only the size of your heart matters. If you want to change the world, measure the person by the size of your heart. So the story he gave here was they had to do these swims. And there's an instructor who insults them or tries to make them quit essentially. So get out the weak ones. And there's a 5'4" trainee who was going to swim, and he came up to him and was yelling at him you really think you're going to be able to do this? The weights are going to break you in half. And he was I won't quit.
Yeah.
And then the instructor was like,
Do you remember what he whispered in his ear?
he said, "Prove me wrong."
Exactly. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. And he ended up finishing towards the front of the pack. So that just goes to show, like, even though your stature or other,
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. Like, it's only the size of your heart. Yeah. So, like, size, skin color, the amount of money you make, doesn't matter. Nothing except your will to succeed. So determination and grit are always more important than talent.
Yeah, in chapter 4 here, life is not fair. Move on, drive on, keep going. If you want to change the world, get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving forward. Sugar cookie is a phrase where, you know, if you were doing something wrong or not technically in line with what you're supposed to be doing, you had to go down and run to the Pacific Ocean. I'm pretty sure, and you had to go get in the water, get completely wet, and then have every crevice of your body covered in sand, and that's when you're a sugar cookie. And kind of a quote here was, "Life isn't fair, and the sooner you learn that, the better off you will be." It's easy to blame your lot in life on some outside forces, so stop trying to believe in that fate is against you. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, no matter how good you are, you still end up being a sugar cookie. And so the main takeaway that we had here was control the controllables. There are things that you cannot control, so why waste your time and your mental fortitude on trying to control things that are completely out of your control?
Awesome. Yeah, I love the sugar cookie analogy that he used. Chapter 5 here, failure can make you stronger. If you want to change the world, don't be afraid of the circus. So here's another kind of odd phrase you could say. And the circus was, if you finish like towards the end of the pack and you're swimming or some other competition that you were doing, you had to go to 2 hours of calisthenics at the end of your training day, and that was designed to wear you down and force you to quit, essentially. And I did. The idea of it is you're so tired, then you wake up the next day, have to do it all over again, then you have to go back to the calisthenics, and it leads you to quit.
Yeah.
But if you stick with it for long enough, then that actually makes you stronger. So the author was placed in the circus, and he was in the last of his swim crew.
Mm-hmm.
And after going through the circus and their final swim, they beat the rest of the pack by miles.
Yeah, it's supposed to be one of those things that are like extremely difficult to do. And, you know, once you have to do those extra 2 hours and you have to wake up the next morning and then do the same thing that everyone else is doing, but now you're extremely tired from last night's circus. And so the thought is, you know, if you're tired, you're not going to be able to perform as good as the other people. So you're going to be back in the circus over and over and over again. And that ended up happening. However, McRaven and his partner were able to overcome the circus and actually find enjoyment in doing the circus, because they found out, you know, the more I do this, the stronger and more discipline that I'm able to build within myself. And actually, they did finish first, and they got congratulated by the instructor.
Yeah, in life you'll face a lot of circuses or challenges and pay for these failures. But if you persevere, if you let those failures teach and strengthen you, then you will be prepared to handle life's toughest moment. And at some point, we'll almost make the list of being in the circus. It's how you like react to that list. So the main takeaways we saw here was just see everything through. Like, everything's going to be challenging at first, but that's essentially how you grow. And then another side of that is use negativity as fuel. So this goes back to your next 5 moves by Patrick Bet-David. Don't let negativity hold you down. Use it as rocket fuel. And I think, like, being in the circus, having failures, use those to propel you to the next level.
And moving on to chapter 6 here, you must dare greatly. If you want to change the world, slide down the obstacle head first. Within this chapter, there was a story where there was an obstacle course where there was a zip line from one end to another, and he was doing fantastic on time, almost setting a PR. But instead of going down head first, which requires a lot more risk, he decided to try to, I don't even know how to describe it, but use his hands and his feet at the same time and just kind of go down in one motion, which resulted in him finishing close to last, which directly ties into the British Special Air Service, the SAS motto, "Who dares wins." Life is struggle, and the potential for failure is ever present. But those who live in fear of failure will never achieve their potential. Without pushing your limits, occasionally sliding down head first, you will never know what is truly possible in life. And the biggest takeaway that we had from this chapter was to take calculated risks. Not all risks are worth the reward, but there are risks that are worth the reward. And it's just being able to kind of pick out and find the golden nugget and determine, is this worth the risk that I'm willing to take?
Yeah, it's all about how you mitigate those risks. So kind of going back to like understanding your micro motives and how the risk isn't actually like a percentage. It can be reduced if you like are more aligned with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on to chapter 7 here, stand up to bullies. If you want to change the world, don't back down from the sharks. The example story he gave here was they had to do a night swim off of one of the islands, and the water was full of sharks. So you could either muster up the courage to go do the swim, or you could go back home. And they said, like, if you encounter it, face it head on, like punch it right in the nose, which is where the shark's really sensitive. So that's exactly what you do to bullies. So without the courage,
others punch them straight in the nose. I suppose. Maybe.
Well,
depends on the situation.
Depends on the situation. Without courage, others will define your path forward. So, and with that, you are at the mercies of life's temptations, and then bullies will rise up and take over, or like the shark will eat you in a sense. So if you don't find the courage to stand your ground, the shark will strike, and they sense that fear. So there are a lot of sharks in the world, so you will have to deal with them no matter what. So you are going to, if you want to achieve your goals and complete the night swim, you have to contain great courage and carry it on throughout your life.
Live with no fears. Chapter 8 here, rise to the occasion. To change the world, be at your best in the darkest moments. The kind of example that he had here is that they had to do a 2,000-meter swim underwater, not being able to see anything. And so the only light they had was a little chemical green light in order to see their compass. But it was so dark, you could hardly see the compass. The moral of the story is everyone confronts dark moments in their life. In that moment, you have to reach down inside yourself and be at your very best at those moments that determine the trajectory of your life in total. It's one of those other things that, don't back down from a challenge.
Yeah.
Only you know who you are and what you're truly capable of. Just dig deep and find that within yourself and accomplish your dreams and your goals.
Yeah. And I think to that point, like they had to go underneath a ship and like place a fake bomb for their
it wasn't even fake. There were stories that they were told by their instructors where people have actually died from these.
Well, you could die. Like if you lose your direction under the water when it's dark out, then you're good. So for 9 now, give people hope. If you want to change the world, start singing when you're up to the neck in mud. So for one of their trainings, I think it was during like Hell Week, they had to go to the Tijuana mud flats, which is basically, it's just freezing cold, like you're covered in wet mud and like it's just miserable. So they were all sitting in the mud, and the instructor was like, if just 5 people quit, we can all go and sit by the fire and
we've got coffee. We've got a fire. We got hot coffee. All we need is for 5 people to quit.
Yeah, and one person was actually was walking away, and then someone started singing.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, everybody in the group started singing, and they were locked arms. Yeah. And even though the instructor was yelling at them to stop, they wouldn't.
And the one person who was going to leave actually came back and joined the guys. And really reinstated the idea of teamwork matters.
Yeah, that just shows the power of one person to unite a group, the power of one person to inspire those around him and to give them hope that doing that task is even possible. So if one person can do it, so can you. So all it takes is you to make a difference. So that kind of leads me to like my main takeaway here was, why not you?
Exactly. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah. Moving on to chapter 10 here, the very last chapter. Never, ever quit. If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell. The story here is that if you ring the bell 3 times, that's you quitting.
In SEAL training.
Yeah. And that's the most important lesson that he ever learned in the military is, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much you want to quit, never, ever give up. Because not only are you giving up on yourself, but you're giving up on your team. And later on in life, you'll think, man, if only I hadn't given up on myself and my future, I could really be making a change and making a difference in the world and society. life is all about what you make it. You determine the meaning.
Yeah. So I just want to read a quick summary to really encapsulate everything that we just talked about here. So start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risk, step up when times are the toughest, face down the bullies, life the downtrodden, and never ever give up. If you do these things, then the next generation and the generation that follows will live in a world far better than the one we live in today. And what we started here will indeed have changed the world for the better.
Now, those are in quotes because those were direct words.
Yeah, that was the summary that he ended with, but I
McRaven.
wanted to still share it.
Absolutely. Going on to the implementation here, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I haven't been very good about making my bed. I didn't understand how important that could really be. And so for me, my implementation is to start making my bed every morning. And so when I go to bed at night, I've got a clean, freshly made bed, and I can just go right to sleep.
Awesome. Yeah. Mine for this week goes off the last chapter there. I really thought about stopping, like calling you and be like, I don't know how much longer I can do this, but just one more week.
We're a team. We're a team here.
Just we're not going to ring the bell just yet. We'll find a way to make it work. So
there are times when I'm not at my 100%, and there are times that he's not on his, but that doesn't matter because when he's at 75, I know I have to be at 125. I have to pick up his slack because I know there are days that I'm not at 100%, and he picks up the slack for me. And that's what it's all about. It's about teamwork and constantly pushing each other to want to be better.
Awesome. Yeah. And then moving on to our quotes for this week. So mine was, tonight you will have to be your very best. You must rise above your fears, your doubts, and your fatigue. No matter how dark it gets, you must complete the mission. This is what separates you from everyone else. And then my second one was, because Mr. Mac, which is one of the characters used in the story, life isn't fair, and the sooner you learn that, the better off you will be. I just resonate with these words a lot, and this goes back to that challenge: just be your best in the darkest moment. Like, you always have another level you can reach down inside of you.
Yeah, for me, my two quotes are, determination and grit were always more important than talent. For me, that speaks a lot, because I realize that there are a lot of people out there who are just generally more talented than I am, or that Landon is. But if we have the determination and the courage and the grit to do the things that other people aren't willing to do, that's more important, right? Along with that, the true leaders must learn from their failures, use the lessons to motivate themselves, and not be afraid to try again or make them the next tough decision. Life is about decisions, and not all of them are going to be easy decisions to make. However, the harder the decisions that you have to make, further down the line you go, those decisions, those once hard decisions that you had to make, will become easier and easier and easier. And that's why I kind of picked those two quotes.
Awesome. And then a little preview for next week.
Yeah, we decided to read the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Very interesting book so far. I've kind of skimmed it in the past, but haven't been able to really dive deep into it, and so I'm excited for that.
Awesome. So that wraps up this week's episode of Make Your Bed. We just want to thank you all for tuning in.
Yeah, our socials are bound to improve on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Yeah, just remember, why not you?
Exactly.
Why not you? Thanks, and we'll see you again next week.